Hi, I'm Bob Schmidt with Home Remodel Workshop. Everybody's real quick to tell you to make sure you clean your pans and your knife off real good when doing drywall finishing, but no one ever tells you what to do with that bucket of partially used mud to make sure that that's good for the next time you got to get back to work. I'll show you what you need to do. Let's get to work. If you put the lid on a mud bucket like this at the end of your workday, by the time you get back to it, any of these little edges here that were nice and thin are going to be nice and crumbly and dry. And when you pull that lid off, if you haven't cleaned the lid, all this little stuff is going to drop into your mud and it's going to make a nightmare for you to finish in the future. So at the end of your day, before you clean up your knives, take one of your small knives and work around the edge of the bucket, making sure you work as much of this mud down into the bottom of your bucket until you got as much of it wiped off as possible and have as flat a surface down here as you can. Just smooth it out a little bit at a time until you get it all down there. Once you get it as reasonably wiped down to the bottom as you can, simply get you a bucket with just some simple water and just a basic scrub brush. Doesn't have to be anything special. And go ahead and start wiping around the inside of your bucket. Wiping all of those little loose, all that stuff that's going to dry out and drop into your bucket later, making sure you get it all rinsed down into the bottom of the bucket. Paying particular attention to up around the edge of the bucket, because if that doesn't stay clean when you pull your bucket lid off, that's going to end up in your mud later. Now once you get it all wiped down and it's basically down to just a simple little film around the edge of the bucket, you've gotten it as reasonably clean as you can, then all you got to do is take your clean bucket of water and dump enough in here just until you have the surface of the mud covered, and then stop. Now, a lot of people will ask, doesn't that soak into the mud? It will soak into the drywall compound, but not very deep, maybe an inch. When it comes time to come back to reuse this again, all you need to do is just dump the excess water off till you start to see a little bit of darker liquid coming out. Stop, remix this with however you mixed it to begin with, and you're going to have a nice fresh batch of mud. I forgot to mention, pay a little attention to your lid, because when you go to bang this back on to seal it all up at the end of the day, if you haven't cleaned this lid and all these grooves out, all this stuff is also going to drop into your bucket. If you do this little simple procedure, I guarantee you that when it comes time to be wiping your mud off at the end of that project, you're not going to be coming up these little scratch lines and all this stuff that's going to cause you headaches later. I'm Bob Schmidt with Home Remodel Workshop. I hope you appreciated this tip, and we'll see you on the next one.